Hey, everyone! Welcome back to another edition of our weekly fantasy football ranking show. Luke Reimer here, Trevor Land next to me. We're without our fearless leader, Zach. But hey, show carries on, and we'll get after it. I guess first of all, Merry late Christmas to anybody and everybody listening. Trevor, I guess how was your Christmas?
Uh, Went all right. I felt like the Grinch with how many league playoff wins were being stolen from me. Keenan Allen not being able to stay in bounds, that hurt a little bit. But you know, being able to chalk it up to 2022 and move on to a new year is something I'm looking forward to. How about you?
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one in that. I agree. I guess in a fantasy football stance, I'm in two championships here. Um, got incredibly lucky. I don't know if you were watching me and Jake's game, but beat him by 1 point. How does Justin Herbert not throw for get more than 5 points against Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've seen, and this isn't just because I've lost, it's just looking across all my leagues, even in with teams that I have that are bad. Looks like the best teams across most leagues aren't winning at all.
Right.
Just with how some of these weeks have gone, and that's kind of how fantasy works, right? The best team is not always going to win, but it feels like the playoff weeks, especially week 14 leading directly into the playoffs, have been just so wacky
Agreed.
that it's causing a lot more mayhem than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that segues perfectly into I guess us two helping whoever listening, ever watching. If you're in your championship, here we are. We're going to do our best to help you out. Happy championship week to everyone. I assume almost everyone. I know people do week 18 championship. How do you feel about that? About that, by the way, week 18 championships.
I don't like it.
Yeah,
It just doesn't make sense to me. That and 2 week championships, I'm
yeah,
not a fan of either. It's
yeah,
just too much on the line.
yeah.
It's too messy for me.
I totally agree. There's too many ways where things can get fucked up or whatever in a week 18 or two week championship. But I guess on that note, let's kick it right off with some quarterbacks for the week. We're taking a look at Zach's rankings. He was nice enough to get these out for us. And half point PPR, we will be going off of all show. So going into it, Trevor, top five for quarterbacks: one, Josh Allen at Cincinnati; two, Patrick Mahomes versus Denver; three, Justin Fields at Detroit; four, Joe Burrow versus Buffalo; five, Dak Prescott at Tennessee. We've got two Monday night quarterbacks, right? To in his top five. I guess initial thoughts and anything you change, anything you love, anything you want to talk about in that top five.
Yeah, for me, Josh Allen at 1 is interesting. He obviously did well this past week, but a lot of that were in plays where the Bills were quite frankly running up the score. Like his
Mhm.
last touchdown pass to Knox probably shouldn't have happened. The touchdown scamper. I don't know how the Bears didn't have a single quarterback spy for a play action. Um, but in this game, it's going to be high scoring for Cincinnati. I think even though his shoulder still isn't quite right, 1 is good. And then Fields at 3, I like too. He obviously had an off game against Buffalo, looked good first drive, and was stalled out other than that. On the turf, everybody looks faster. Obviously, Detroit can't stop the run, much less a run pass option. So he should look good too.
You have to imagine with Josh Allen, right, too, because Stephon Diggs has been just non-existent in fantasy the last couple of weeks. I know they kind of a playoff spot locked up, but I mean, I'm from Buffalo. I'd like to, at least get Stephon Diggs one more game this year, right, in the regular season. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, Monday night should be fun, right? Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I'm sure this is what the NFL had in mind. But obviously, the one that sticks out there to me is Dak Prescott at five, right? And I'm assuming, I guess Dallas's offense has looked very good the last couple of weeks. Rushing attack and passing attack has been working. I would imagine that Zach ranked him there too, in part that like Tennessee just is not that good at football anymore. I don't know what happened to Tennessee. Do you agree with Dak Prescott that high?
I do. I kind of laughed when he threw that first pick six. I was like, oh, here comes Dak again. But he rebounded well. They look good. And with Malik Willis in Tennessee, I just don't know I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if he's being used incorrectly or if he has a learning curve or what, but that team is garbage with him at quarterback. And so Dallas's defense should be able to get to him and give their offense some great places to go.
Well, especially right, Derrick Henry just got listed as doubtful, so I'm sure that that can't happen. That can't be anything good for Tennessee's offense, right? So yeah, Trevor, I agree. This kind of feels like a game tomorrow night where Dallas just kind of takes over from the rip and doesn't look back, right? Like Tennessee is not that great of a football team without Derrick Henry to give the ball to 30 times. So I mean, I'm with you. I do think Dallas wins. I think they win big, and that comes by way of Dak Prescott. I guess we open up the show talking about him, but we can hop into Justin Herbert here, who Zach has at 6, versus the Los Angeles Rams, Battle of LA. Justin Herbert hasn't been what we know Justin Herbert to be this year, right? I mean, we talked about it, 5 points against Indianapolis. I mean, it seems like obviously Zach thinks he's having a bounce back game. Is that something that you're kind of looking towards too?
Yes, and no. I mean, at the same time, like I think the last 2 weeks we thought it should have been his bounce back week, and he just didn't do it. And 2 weeks ago he played against Tennessee. Quarterback 25 and 30 is not at all what you'd expect. Obviously, we expect him to come back up from that, but I don't know how high we can put him in terms of expectations. I mean, he has scored 20 points once since week 4 against Houston.
Yeah.
So, I find it hard to ever put him top 5 until he can at least cross the 20-point threshold again.
Yeah, yeah, and Los Angeles. Congratulations to them for winning a playoff spot, right? Maybe that monkey's off their back now. These guys can play a bit more loose, but knowing the Los Angeles Chargers, go out and Justin Herbert gets hurt first play of the game, and their whole playoffs are done and everything. But I think, I mean, it feels like a game where, like I said, that that monkey's kind of off the back, just kind of unleash on Justin Herbert here a little bit. I mean, the Rams, nothing scares you on defense. This should be a real get in the groove kind of game for Justin Herbert. So I'm with Zach on that. Trevor, I'm just kind of looking down the list, and I don't know if there's any quarterbacks that you particularly wanted to talk about.
No, and looking, I mean, I'm sure you're about to get into that too, but looking at the rankings, Zach's rankings versus the consensus, all of them are pretty standard here, within 1 or 2 rankings outside of 1 or 2 here.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the one that I'll talk about, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I bring him up every week, but Trevor Lawrence, is he a guy? Everyone's going nuts about this Houston defense, how they're not giving up any yards. Is that more in the realm of teams are just running the ball against them and they can't give up? Nobody's throwing against them, or are you scared of Houston if you have Trevor Lawrence in a championship right now?
I'm not scared of Houston at all. Looking up and down the board, I don't like most of the matchups here or
Right.
the quarterback. I mean, obviously, whenever you have Jared Goff at 7, granted it's in a home game, but still Jared Goff at 7, and like we said, Herbert at 6, there aren't a lot of great options there. So I like him there. His running ability is great, and I think Jacksonville just has too many weapons. And I would assume a get right game for Zay Jones after a pretty poor showing against the Jets on Thursday night.
It's got to be right. Like Zay Jones has to be involved in their offense in the playoffs here. In that game, like Zach Wilson playing last week, like the Jaguars knew. I felt like knew they were going to win that game, even though they weren't putting up a lot of points. Maybe you get Zay Jones involved, you put up more points. I'm sure that's the case. So yeah, I agree, Trevor. We get some comments from Caden, the Colts fan. Sorry to hear about the disappointing season. Thought Nick Foles was the guy, but maybe not. I'm in a rough spot. Lost Tua and Derrick Henry for my championship matchup at quarterback. Do I start Mac Jones or Danny Dimes? Let's break this down. Let's start with that. Mac Jones this week is versus Miami, and Daniel Jones is versus Indianapolis. I think Daniel Jones, right?
Yeah, I don't trust Mac against anybody ever.
Yeah.
I don't see need to, and obviously with Daniel Jones with his legs, he gives you a great floor.
Yeah, Giants are in a playoff hunt right now too. They don't have anything locked up yet. So I would imagine this is a very heavy, Daniel Jones, you go make a play kind of game. those are kind of the games that he feels like he wins, right? Just let him go play football. So yeah, I'm with you. Zach has Daniel Jones ranked 10, by the way, and Mac Jones ranked 21. So seems to be with us on that. And then he's looking at a running back, Son Haskins at Tennessee, or I'm guessing Latavius Murray at Denver. I think I'm in favor of Hassan Haskins, right? I mean, he has the
Yeah.
opportunity. I feel much more confident that he's going to get meaningful opportunities than Latavius Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement. And obviously Zach's rankings don't show that yet, since Derrick Henry's not completely out, but I'm sure they'll be reflected to show that as well.
Yep. Cool. And then he's got tight ends here. We'll dive all into this, but we can answer this question now. Tyler Conklin for the Jets, who let me pull up this real quick. Tyler Conklin is at Seattle. Darren Waller is against San Francisco. Dalton Schultz at
Tennessee.
I think Dalton Schultz. I think I'm leaning Dalton Schultz on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a start your Cowboys week to me. We talked about this already. Even with the influx of weapons there, I think Dalton Schultz is fine for at least 4 to 5 catches for 50 yards.
Yeah, and Schultz is the one. I think the two is Conklin with Mike White being back. I think that helps his value a lot. I think he's coming back. Zach
Yeah.
Wilson certainly isn't playing, so that won't hurt him for sure.
Yeah. And Zach's in the chat here saying, watch the news in Tennessee. Hassan Haskins could be the lead guy, but Chestnut may be involved or will be involved. So there, right from the source, people. Caden, final question here. Would you start at Hodgins? I'm assuming Hodgins for the Giants, or Richie James Jr. over Murray? Latavius Murray? I mean, I wouldn't start either of them over Murray.
No.
Cool. All right, let's finish up some quarterbacks here. We'll get back to questions. In terms of higher and lower, the only one that really sticks out is Geno Smith. Zach is 4 lower on versus the Jets. Jets are another team. Both teams, Jets and Seattle, are in these playoff hunts. We know that the Jets have Sauce Gardner to kind of take away his side of the field. Is Sauce Gardner? I know the Jets haven't lived up to what their defense was at the beginning of the year, but is someone like him enough to make you question starting Geno Smith, or are you even comfortable starting Geno Smith in a championship?
I'd be comfortable starting Geno, but I think a little hesitant at first, like seeing if there are any better options. And then to your point, I think seeing Sauce on the other side, even though he can't lock down the whole field, I just don't completely buy Geno. So I like that ranking. I think it's fair. Also, we've seen after a really, really hot start, he's still been decent, but he has died down a little bit. So I'm just a little worried about that.
Yeah. Sticking with Geno Smith. Tyler Lockett didn't practice today. So, I mean, he's an incredible part of that offense. Keep your eyes on that. But, I mean, Geno Smith, I'm curious, if someone has Geno Smith, I'm wondering if there's any better. I mean, would you do someone like, would you do Mike White over Geno Smith this week, playing against each other?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Here's one more that people that I know a lot of people are starting him is Brock Purdy. Would you do him over Geno Smith?
Who do the 49ers play this week?
The Raiders at Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would play him, especially with Derek Carr not playing.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes the offense that much worse, but that's going to be a disgusting game, and I think they put him in great positions in San Francisco.
Yep. Totally agree. Cool. Trevor, any other quarterbacks you want to talk about before we hop into another question here?
No, not right now.
Okay. Main event Mike has a hard question for us. We like hard questions. Who should he start? Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers, Hassan Haskins, James Cook, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Isaiah Hodgins, Jahan Dotson, Rashid Shaheed. He needs 2 wide receivers and a flex.
So that's 9 names for 3 spots. I'm going to break it down a little bit. If Hassan Haskins is starting, assuming Henry's out, which is probable, he has to start. He has to be your flex. So suddenly the question comes down to 2 wide receivers. So obviously that takes out James Cook. Um, so I'm looking at this. I can't trust Lazard. So I'm probably going to go with Jacoby Myers at one of them, and then I'm flipping between Peoples Jones and Dotson. Dotson looked pretty well this past week. Obviously, Carson Wentz being the quarterback, he targeted him way more than McLaurin. I'd probably lean Dotson, but I think Donovan Peoples Jones deserves to be in that discussion as well.
Yeah, I agree. And if we're going off just looking at Zach's rankings here, he kind of has a lot of these guys in the same area. Alan Lazard at 31, Jacoby Myers at 33, Jahan Dotson at 36, Donovan Peoples Jones at 39. Um, Alan Lazard's an interesting play to me because I agree with you, and we've talked about it before. He doesn't really look interested. We talked about it all offseason that his best skill set is blocking. But in a must-win game like this, must-win game for the Packers, home, at home, huge division rival. Lazard's one of Rodgers' guys. Do you think Rodgers looks to him anymore, or do you think he kind of it just goes with the flow that it seems he has been on this 3-game win streak here?
I think it kind of goes with the flow. I think if you're playing a DFS and Lazard is cheap, I think he's a great play.
Yeah,
But it just feels much more Packers to me to try to get Watson involved and try to exercise those demons from week one.
yep.
It just seems like something they'll try to do.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree. So yeah, I think Jacoby Myers. You said Hassan Haskins, Jacoby Myers, and Jahan Dotson. I don't disagree with you. I think Jahan Dotson may have Carson Wentz this week. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I think he might have a little bit better passes coming to him this week.
Oh, duh. I can't believe I forgot about that. That news came out today. Yeah, Watson may not play for Green Bay. Can't believe I forgot about that. Him and I think Keyshawn Nixon might be out as well, which doesn't matter for wide receiver. But yeah, if Watson's out, I think you probably have to fire up Lazard.
You take Lazard over Myers or Dotson.
Yeah, probably Dotson. Who are the Commanders playing this week?
The Commanders are playing the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Not taking Lazard over him, but whether it's Lazard over Dotson or Myers, I'd probably take him over Dotson.
Agree. Perfect. Caden's leaning Conklin. Seahawks give up the second most points to tight ends, and the Titans have so many inactives. I don't think it's fair. It's a fair point. Like I said, it just feels like to me, this is a Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott kind of game. Zach saying Tyler Lockett is probably out for the Geno Smith revenge game. So Sauce is on DK Metcalf. Not great for Geno. Agreed. Watson might not play. Yep. Cool. All right. Let's hop into some running backs, huh? So, top 5 half-point PPR. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey at the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 2, Saquon Barkley versus the Indianapolis Colts. Number 3, Austin Eckler versus the Los Angeles Rams. Number 4, Derrick Henry versus the Dallas Cowboys, which is doubtful, so I'm assuming Zach will move that eventually. But 5, James Conner at Dallas. Trevor, obviously with, taking aside Derrick Henry, kind of the top 3 running backs in fantasy football right now, top 3. I assume you agree with that. But James Conner's looked good too at 5. Is that something that that you're kind of riding with as well?
Yeah, absolutely. James Conner. I mean, we've talked about it. I think it was really week 10 or week 11. We really brought him up. Zach brought him up first, and we agreed that he was going to explode once he came back, and he has 22, 12, 19, 20, 16, and 21. He's pretty much got a touchdown in every game. Now he's playing an Atlanta team on the road in the turf. Everybody runs faster indoors. And this Atlanta defense is not good, nothing special. Their sack numbers are horrendous, so passing game should be fine. I don't see them loading up on the run for any reason. That wouldn't make sense. So, yeah, I see him running wild. And even if he just gets a touchdown on 10 carries, that alone should be good. But his work in the passing game has been very impressive the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, shout out main event, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Ask us more questions if you have anything. We'll be here. We'll be here all night. But yes, I agree with you, Trevor. Especially like this game really, I guess, means nothing. I mean, is that this kind of feels like a sloppy game. The only way that it feels like Arizona's moving the ball right now is with James Conner. He's really the only one getting them points. So, and maybe he's not coaching for his job, but I mean, I'm sure Kingsbury wants points. He wants to look good, and James Conner is doing that right now. So I'm aboard with that as well. With Derrick Henry out of the top five, Trevor, I don't know if you have the rankings up right now, but do you have anyone that you would put in that top five? You want to slide to that spot?
It's tough. Maybe Stevenson or Etienne. I know Dalvin Cook is sitting there at 6, and I know the Packers historically have a terrible running defense, and they historically have trouble with Dalvin Cook. But I have not been impressed with Dalvin Cook at all
Nope.
the past couple weeks. Obviously, Justin Jefferson has looked incredible. Best receiver in the league, in my opinion, right now. So you have to give him the ball, but he just hasn't produced fantasy wise. Really not a lot of touchdowns, and when he does get touchdowns, not a lot of yards. People forget that Colts game. He did absolutely nothing in the first 3 quarters. He got really rescued there in the fourth and overtime. So he's an interesting one for me. I think he could be like a top 3 guy, but it's tough to put him in the top 5 with how he's been up and down since really week 10.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you too on Ramondre Stevenson. Patriots are also in the playoff one, so and you talked about Mac Jones, like you're not excited about that passing game whatsoever. Yeah, and Stevenson's really the only one moving. Another one who's really the only one moving the ball for him. And dude, that guy's a stud runner. Runs hard, finishes, runs hard. I'm with you on Ramondre Stevenson. Plus, what I mean do you think Damian Harris ever plays another down of football?
It's tough. I don't think he will. I mean, he just seems like a Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis type
Mm-hmm.
of guy for me. A very solid running back who does very good in a role, but I mean, it's going to be tough to sell himself in free agency, and I don't think the Patriots need him back. So,
Yeah,
so I don't know where he goes from here, except for a second or a third stringer.
yeah, I agree. And I guess we'll touch on this real quick. We're both Packer fans here. Stephen Goforth is asking Rodgers or Minshew this week. Rodgers is at home against Minnesota, and Gardner Minshew is versus New Orleans. I heard that Jalen Hurts is trying to play this week. That obviously is the deal breaker there. But let's say Gardner Minshew plays this week. I mean, I don't know, man. This feels like a Rodgers game to me, right?
It does. I'm just wondering if it's enough of a Rodgers game to put him over Minshew.
Yeah,
For fantasy purposes, Rodgers, I mean, he hasn't ever hit 20 points. He's only hit over 17 twice. Obviously, he can always dice up Minnesota, but we know Minshew's going to be slinging the rock if he's on the field, and it's
yep,
going to be a lot. He's going to turn the ball over, but I think he just gets enough touchdowns and enough scores and yards to make up for it. I think Rodgers is safer floor, but Minshew's a higher ceiling.
yep. Yep, I agree. I think with Minshew, right? The teams don't have much film on him this year. They're going off the one game. This almost feels like a guy who can kind of be that spot starter in a championship, a very rare spot starting a championship. I don't hate either option here. If of course, is a must win. I assume Steven is for a championship. I guess yeah. Minshew might be the play here. I'm assuming if Rodgers is your starting quarterback, you didn't use a early pick on an Allen or a Mahomes or something. So I assume your position players are great. I think you can. I don't want to say confidently, but with some semi confidence, take a gamble on Gardner Minshew here if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, obviously. Cool. Where were we? Running backs still. We can just, I guess, hop right into higher and lower. And I guess we'll start off with this right away. Josh Jacobs, Zach has 10 lower than the consensus at 16. Um, versus San Francisco, no Derek Carr. The Raiders look not great. Are you confident in Josh Jacobs? Is anyone confident in Josh Jacobs? Like, what is to be expected out of Josh Jacobs this week?
Yeah, I actually think 16 might be a little generous.
I agree.
I Jarrett Stidham. I don't know if I trust him in any game, much less against San Francisco. I mean, this game is going to be an absolute bloodbath, and I I, I would assume San Francisco just sends the heat every play
Yeah.
to either stuff the run or force pressure. I don't know if Stidham's good enough or if McDaniels is smart enough to be able to scheme a winning strategy or even a competent one. So I don't like him at all. If you have Josh Jacobs, I'm very much considering benching him at best, putting him in a flex.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Obviously, I'm sure that the people who have Josh Jacobs are probably not going to bench him because he got you there. But San Francisco is damn good. Vegas is damn bad. I guess really the saving grace here, right, is you would think Josh Jacobs sees the ball maybe a little bit more to start the game. If they can get that rolling a little bit, help settle Stidham in. But even if he does, that San Francisco defense is just so fucking good. Yeah, I'm with you, Trevor. I'm sure if you're in the championship, you're starting them. But there's nothing I can say, to say you should start him, you shouldn't start him because I would start him. But I mean, I'm not confident in it. I'm not happy about this start. 6 higher. We're kind of jumping around the board here. That's all right. 6 higher. Zach has at 10. Miles Sanders versus New Orleans, which the consensus has at 6 or at 16. My thought with Miles Sanders is he's kind of he fell off the cliff 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. He kind of climbed up a little bit. I don't necessarily know that Philadelphia needs to use him. I guess Philadelphia kind of needs to win one more game to lock up that division, and they're still fighting for a 1 spot. But is Miles Sanders someone that you think can win someone a championship this week?
I don't think he can win somebody a championship, but I think, like a lot of other players have shown this year, he can certainly lose you a championship. Yeah, I like him as a player when he's used. I think he can be a really big difference maker, but it's just so inconsistent when he's able to make plays and when he's not. And even the touches are inconsistent. 11 against Chicago, 21 against Dallas. Now, obviously, game script is different, but if I can't trust the production or how much usage he gets, I'm hesitant to start him anywhere outside of that RB2 flex range.
Yeah, and it looks like Zach's with you here, saying for sure high risk, high reward. With that fumble, Zach thinks that Philadelphia may build his confidence this week, and it very well could. I don't see why not getting into the playoffs. But Trevor, I kind of agree with you. I guess to me too, it feels like there's too many weapons there. I mean, we always say that about Philadelphia running backs, right? So I mean, is Miles Sanders going to score a touchdown? I think if he scores a touchdown, he kind of provides that top 10 value. But I think I'm kind of leaning more towards your side than Zach's sides here, and maybe I would dump him. I'm sorry, not dump him. Maybe drop him down a couple of spots. But I mean, if you have Miles Sanders, he's probably another guy like Josh Jacobs. You're starting him. He's good enough to get touches on a good offense. So all the power to you guys starting them. Ezekiel Elliott +5. Zach has him at 14. The consensus has him at 19. I think we're both kind of agreed on the Dallas situation here. I don't know if you have anything to say about Ezekiel Elliott, but I think we're kind of locked in that we think Dallas put up a lot of points this week.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Ezekiel Elliott is how many vulture touchdowns they give him.
Yeah,
It
right.
seemed like last week Pollard did the work and Elliott got the touchdowns. Um, it hurts me because I love watching Pollard play, and I think paying a guy millions and millions and millions to run up a wide open hole for a yard is a little useless. But nevertheless, he's probably going to get you a touchdown. At that point, you really don't need anything else. So at
Yep.
that ranking, it's easy.
Yep. Totally agree. Since we're just talking about it, let's go back to that Packer game. Zach is +7 on AJ Dillon, has him ranked at 20 in comparison to 27. AJ Dillon's got 4 straight weeks with a rushing touchdown. Do you think that's sustainable, Trevor? Is that enough? I mean, I shouldn't say is that enough. If you have AJ Dillon, are you planning on him getting a touchdown? Are you confident maybe starting him as an RB2 or a flex this week?
I think you have to be based on the usage he's had lately. Um, I don't know if I'm missing something here, and I know Jones is banged up, but I mean, this is your season on the line, and the Packers are still super conservative with him, which is weird. I don't hear anything about any progress with him, which is also weird. So, barring some major change out of the blue, he's going to get touches. He's probably going to get you a touchdown. For whatever reason, they love him in goal to go situations. So, I think easily RB2, if you have him in a flex, you're probably sitting pretty.
Yeah. So actually in a league right now, that I'm playing coaching in our 8-man championship, I'm starting AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones this week. I have no idea how that's going to go, but it'd make the Packer game a lot more fun to watch. But just talking about AJ Dillon, his last 3 games, Miami had 58%. He's on the 58% of the snaps he's on the field. Against the Rams, 37% of the snaps he's on the field, and Chicago, 68% of the snaps he was on the field. Against Chicago, he's RB6, Rams RB9, Miami RB20. So he's actually had very similar stat lines the last 2 weeks. 11 for 36 and a touchdown against Miami, and 11 for 36 with 2 touchdowns against the Rams. Obviously, that second touchdown saving grace against the Rams. Trevor, I think I'm going to ride some trends here. I do think that AJ Dillon is probably a 10 rush guy for 40 yards and a touchdown. I don't see. I mean, the Packers have won 3 games, doing this. It would make sense to just continue to do the same thing. I think Matt LaFleur is smart enough for that, and I think he likes AJ Dillon enough to do that. So if I was a betting guy, I would bet on AJ Dillon scoring a touchdown this week, and I think that fantasy managers can be okay starting him at RB2 or a flex if you're a good manager. Cool. Let's get to another question from Steven here. Zay Jones, he has in his flex starting. Should he play Chuba Hubbard, Hassan Haskins, or Hollywood Brown instead? And I don't think he should play either of those 3 instead of Zay Jones. How about you?
It's tough. I'd probably go Zay Jones. I love Haskins, but I don't know how much running room he's going to get. And Zay Jones has been a target monster up until this past week. I'd assume that gets back to normal against Houston. He's even though he looked like complete garbage last week, throwing in some drops as well. I think Zay Jones still gives you the best floor of those 4.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that people need to freak out about Zay Jones. Last week, I think he's too big of a part of his offense all year to finally go by the wayside now. I think Zay Jones is fine. Other running backs, I'll rapid fire you some here. Zach, 4 lower on Alvin Kamara, 3 lower on Joe Mixon, 4 lower on Cam Akers, 4 lower on Jerick McKinnon, 4 lower on Brian Robinson, 8 lower on J.K. Dobbins. That's probably one we can talk about, right? J.K. Dobbins, Sunday night versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's gonna be a great cold weather Ravens Steelers matchup like always. Do we know the status of Lamar Jackson?
I don't think so yet.
Okay. That would obviously be one to watch because I imagine if Lamar Jackson comes back, he kind of takes back control of this offense and it goes as he goes. I don't know. Zach doesn't have J.K. Dobbins very high. Do you have any strong opinion on J.K. Dobbins this week?
No. I think he probably gets you 60, 70 rushing yards, probably 17, 18 carries. I think he's dependent on a touchdown to really get you over that hump. He kind of feels like a AJ Dillon to me, but with more opportunities.
Agreed.
So I'm confident with what you're going to get from him, and I think you have a high upside. But to expect a 20-point game just seems out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think this week I'd be comfortable starting him as my flex. I mean that's Pittsburgh Baltimore every year is a fucking heavyweight matchup. So you would imagine a lot of bruising running in this game. I think I'm higher on J.K. Dobbins this week than Zach is. Zach, if you're in the chat, I would love to hear your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins. Let me get back to Zach too, updating us with news. Tony Pollard hasn't practiced this week, but plans to play. Zach saying I don't know what that means or why they'd overplay him this week, and I don't necessarily disagree with that.
I do because Mike McCarthy is still the coach, and what's his name is the offensive coordinator. I just don't feel like they ever make the right decision. They shouldn't overplay them, but they're going to try.
Agreed. And talking about players that Zach is higher on, Miles Sanders has 6 higher than the consensus. Ezekiel Elliott 5 higher. We talked about them. AJ Dillon, we talked about him 7 higher. Jamal Williams 6 higher against Chicago. Obviously, both of us are Packer fans, and we're both huge Jamal Williams fans. He's another player who's kind of gone by the wayside and has really shown that he's been kind of, I don't want to say touchdown dependent, but I mean, touchdowns are a big part of his fantasy points. Versus Chicago this week, this kind of feels like another like Ravens, Steelers, or Atlanta, Arizona to me. We're kind of be some slugfest. I think Detroit can run the ball against Chicago, which I think they should do. And I can, if you know, I would imagine if they get a first drive going and hit Jamal Williams for a touchdown, like it feels like they've been doing all year, get him back going because they need him to make a playoff run here.
Yeah, I've been saying it the past 2 weeks that the Lions have not gotten a touchdown to Swift, Jamal Williams, or Amon-Ra St. Brown the past 3 weeks. Meanwhile, they just throw it up to what's his name, that tight end, every single time apparently. Yeah, they have to get those guys involved again in scoring touchdowns. Obviously, they've had some success without getting them involved, but it's almost getting a little ridiculous at this point. I understand you need to keep defenders on their toes, but there comes a point where you need your guys to step up. It's do or die time, so I'd assume this is the week that that group of three probably combines for 2 touchdowns. And no, I will not put any respect on Shane Zylstra's name because he is one of like 4 relevant tight ends on that team.
There you have it. Trevor, I agree with you too. Like something needs to change if you get fucking decimated by Carolina last week. If you're in a playoff run here, and I think that starts immediately with Jamal Williams. So I guess I agree. Just to pick out one more here, just because Zach has gotten me turned on to him, and he's one of my favorites now. Cordell Patterson, Zach has 4 higher than the consensus. I assume if you're in the championship, you're not starting Cordell Patterson because Atlanta just like stopped using him in the middle of the year after he got hurt. Trevor, if you are someone like someone who's lagging along Cordell Patterson, maybe an 8 or a 14, 16 man league. He has a matchup against Arizona this week. Nothing really scares you there. Actually, kind of a great matchup for him. Are you confident in Cordell Patterson's ability against Arizona this week?
Not at all. Looking at Sleeper, Cordero's owned in 79% of leagues. Tyler Algier is owned in 54. That's the guy we talked about before the draft even started, a late round stash. He's been phenomenal, in my opinion. He's looked like the better running back and the opportunities he's gotten. So I think, last week of the season, as long as you're not in Dynasty, to be completely honest, I think you're fine dropping Patterson for Algier if you can.
Yep.
Because if you're not going to play Patterson, you shouldn't be worried about playing against him. So what is he taking up a roster spot for you?
Yep, I agree. And I should mention too, Zach has Tyler Algier at 23. Falcons going with Algier and saving Cordell Patterson is what Zach is saying. Cool. Is there any other running backs you want to touch on, Trevor? Trying to hit some of the bigger name ones here.
No.
Yeah, me either. I guess I'll bring up Raheem Mostert. Jeff Wilson's kind of been vulturing touchdowns from him lately. I would assume a lot of people used Raheem Mostert to get to a championship. I know I did. I sat him last week. Or if you're a Raheem Mostert owner, are you sitting him again? Yeah, I agree. Cool. All right, let's hit some receivers, huh?
So real quick, while we have receivers, we have another question with Pittman or Jahan Dotson for flex. I think that's Pittman all the way.
I agree.
I hate relying on Nick Foles, but Nick Foles is miles ahead of Carson Wentz, so I'm going Pittman.
Yep, I'm with you on Zach, or I'm with you on that. Zach is with us as well. Michael Pittman, 25th ranked receiver, Jahan Dotson, 36. This is kind of like maybe a don't overthink it one to me. I don't know. I mean, Michael Pittman's a better player than Jahan Dotson. Maybe not, but I think he has better opportunities, right? And he's shown that he can do something with those opportunities more than Dotson. So talking about the top 5 receivers, we'll start off with number 1, Justin Jefferson, followed by his college teammate. Number 2, Jamar Chase. Number 3, Tyreek Hill. Justin Jefferson's at Green Bay. Jamar Chase is against Buffalo. Tyreek Hill's at New England. CeeDee Lamb at Tennessee at 4. Stephon Diggs 5 at Cincinnati. Anything scream out to you right away, Trevor?
Just that if Justin Jefferson isn't your number 1 wide receiver this week until the end of the year in your rankings, you're just wrong. Like there's just no other way to put it.
Yep.
He's been incredible. I mean, 133, 123, 223. A week where he only had 45, but a touchdown, 139. A little off week with 33, but then 193, 115, 98, 107, 150, 140. I mean, dude's
Yep.
just a machine. He's playing a Packers team that cannot stop crossing routes to save their life. Joe Barry will not change his defensive scheme. Matt LaFleur will not call him out to change it. They are going to destroy the Packers for yards. Now, whether the scoreline will say that, I don't know. But Justin Jefferson, I'd feel pretty confident he might actually drop at least 150 yards this week.
And Justin Jefferson too he's hanging around the 2,000 mark, 200 and something yards away. I'm sure that Minnesota would love to knock the Packers out of the playoffs in Lambeau and have Justin Jefferson go over 2,000 all in the same game. So, yep, Trevor, I'm with you on that. We talked about Stephon Diggs a little bit. CeeDee Lamb, we've been talking about Dallas. Tyreek Hill, are you worried with Tua out, Teddy Bridgewater coming in? Seems like Jalen Waddle obviously had an awesome game against Green Bay. Does that cause for any worry, or are you? I mean, I'm in the idea that like it's Tyreek Hill, you have to play him. He's going to be a top 3 guy because they just get him the ball. However, I guess I can go first on that. I don't think you worry about Tyreek Hill at all this week.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I know Tua got knocked out pretty early in that Cincinnati game, week 4. He looked fine in that game. The targets are there. Obviously, the yardage off the targets might not be there anymore. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater's um, as willing to go deep, but I don't think it matters what the targets he gets. And with that speed, I mean, it doesn't matter if you get it to him 5 yards. He'll probably take another 20 after the catch.
Yep, totally agree. Just touching on some other here in the top 10. We talked about Tyler Lockett. If he's out, you imagine Sauce is on DK. Zach has DK at 10. As T. Higgins here at 9. Here, we can talk, I guess, Devontae Adams at 8. Derek Carr bench, Jared Stidham. Not great for Devontae Adams, huh? I don't think that trade went the way that he thought it was going to go.
No.
But I think Adams is another one that you have to play him if you're in the championship. I'm in the mind like Derek Carr doesn't hardly look at him. It feels like in games where Oakland needs or Vegas needs to win. I don't know how big of an upgrade Jared Stidham is going to be over that, but I would imagine with the young quarterback that he has to at least pepper Devontae with targets early, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to assume that.
Yeah. I think there's enough opportunities for Devontae Adams that you don't need to even think about taking him out or anything like that. I think he's fine, just not top 3 fine. Cool. Other receiver, I guess we can hop right into receivers that Zach is higher on. She has Jerry Jeudy at 18. Consensus has him at 20. I guess Broncos, if you're in a championship, do you have any confidence starting any Broncos whatsoever?
Not in the slightest, no.
I don't think so. It feels like with Hackett out, right, that this should just be a very simple playbook. Or I'm almost wondering too if it's Russell Wilson go make plays in this game. That kind of excites me a little bit about Denver receivers.
It should not.
It shouldn't. All right. Yeah, you're right.
Like it should, like in a theoretical landscape.
No, you're right.
The offensive line is yelling at their backups.
Yeah,
it's bad.
You're right. Let's talk DJ Chark. He's always a fun player to talk about. Zach has him at 30, consensus at 35. DJ Chark, he he's there. He's a part of the Lions offense. Um, Trevor, you Zach are obviously have shown much support for the Lions this year against Chicago at home. Is this could this be a sleeper championship play here?
I don't know. It's just so hard to trust him. Obviously, the past 5 weeks, he's got double digits 3 times. He's a weird player because in those three double digit games, only one did he get touchdowns, which means the other 2 games he got under, he had a touchdown. So he either gets it in yards and receptions or he gets a touchdown, but still, like, it doesn't add up. Um, he plays Chicago. I don't know how much they need to pass on Chicago, and
Agreed.
that's what has me a little off of him.
I agree. Um, Plus, when's the last time we said this? But Detroit has a flurry, an arsenal of weapons with them. It still feels like Jameson Williams is not going to end this year with one catch. Like Jameson Williams is going to get involved somehow. Josh Reynolds is still there. He's still churning along. Jamal Williams has to be involved. I don't love starting DJ Chark here if I'm in a championship. Um, but I guess like a 14-team league, if I'm putting DJ Chark at a flex, I picked him up late in the draft. I picked him up on waivers. I think you could do worse with him. And Zach's high on him. Shane Zylstra, Zach saying, is a weapon there as well.
Stop making this a thing. I will say in standard leagues, I think I love him because Chark's yards per target and yards per catch are incredibly high. I would question why you're playing in a standard league, but if you're in a standard league, I would bump up Chark a little more.
Yeah, I think I agree. And the only other really big jump that Zach has in terms of players that he likes more than the consensus is Terrace Marshall, 56 at Tampa Bay. Consensus has him at 65. I assume if you're in a championship, you're not starting Terrace Marshall.
Nope.
But I do love him in FanDuel in DFS this week. Very sneaky play.
And then we have Tim.
Tim,
Is Gus Edwards good play week 17 PPR? No, I don't think he's anything better than a flex.
who are you starting him over would be the question.
I think a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I like how Edwards looks. I just hard to trust a Ravens offensive player, much less an offensive player that's in a committee.
Well, much less the Ravens' offense in general. I mean, they put up 3 points, whatever 2 weeks that was, go against the Browns, and if Lamar's there, obviously they'll get a jump start. I mean, I think Gus Edwards is probably involved if Lamar Jackson is playing. How much does that cost? Zach, I know Zach's high on Gus Edwards. Zach, if you're in the chat listening, please drop your comment on Gus Edwards. He's a better running back than Dobbins, but just curious. And Tim, if you're still in the chat too, I'm sorry, Trevor. Tim, if you're still in the chat too, is Gus Edwards good play week 17 in PPR? Send us who you're debating playing him.
That's true.
That'll give us a better answer.
And Zach, send us your pick for the week.
True. Send us your pick for the week too, Zach. Zach saying his ceiling is a flex. Yep.
I mean, I'm just looking at Huntley's stats. That has to be the biggest hit piece you could ever write against the Packers defense.
Oh, I know.
They gave up 36 fantasy points to this man,
Mm-hmm.
4 total touchdowns, and he has not had more than 2 touchdowns except for one game in his last 6 starts. So, good job, Packers.
love getting the shots in. In terms of receivers that Zach is lower on, I'll throw a couple here at you, Trevor. Mike Williams versus the Rams, he's 2 lower. Amari Cooper at Washington, he's 2 lower. I assume we're in agreement on Amari Cooper playing outside against Washington. Probably find a better option. Jahan Dotson -3. We talked about him. I mean, not much variation. Marquez Valdes-Scantling -5. Zach is at 60. Van Jefferson -4 at 61. I guess Trevor, is there any maybe some ranked Zach has someone ranked 20 or below that you're looking at that maybe could be a a sleeper, a flyer for a championship. I think Brandon Ayuk's interesting this week at Vegas. Um, Obviously, George Kittle has seemed to be the biggest benefactor with Deebo Samuel out. You have to imagine Brandon Ayuk gets at least some of that right this week as they're getting prepared for the playoffs.
Yeah, the only other guys I look at are Kirk and Zay Jones, obviously both for Jacksonville. They're right on the cusp of 20. But man, bringing up your point on Mike Williams, I've said it so many times before, and I'm going to say it till he retires. I hate Mike Williams for fantasy. He's annoying. And as a Keenan Allen owner, I speak for all of us when I say he annoys the shit out of me too.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, and I don't think it's definitely not entirely his fault, but the inconsistency. I have not seen inconsistency like this from a receiver who can look so good.
Oh, I know.
It's bad. Like he can look so good, or he can not even show up at all, and it is baffling to me. So I don't think, yeah, I don't like throwing him up at all. Obviously, wide receiver 2 is great. I'd only be comfortable at him in flex though, just because it can be so high and so low.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're playing him at your flex. Um, Other than that, is there any other receivers you want to mention before we rip through tight ends and picks here real quick? Everyone listening too, stay with us. About 10 or so minutes after the show, we'll be doing our Lombardi sweep, talking with the Packers. 3-game win streak on a run here, baby. Right, Trevor?
Don't even start.
All right, tight ends. Top 5: Travis Kelce, 1 versus Denver. 2, George Kittle at Vegas. 3, T.J. Hawkinson at Green Bay. 4, Dallas Goedert versus New Orleans. 5, Evan Ingram at Houston. No Mark Andrews in the top 5 this week, Trevor.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Baltimore's offense is complete garbage.
Garbage.
Baltimore really backed themselves into a corner by not extending Lamar, um, or not even really trying
Mhm.
enough, because this team, if you can't get Mark Andrews going, you're just a mess.
You're in
You're just
playoffs.
a worthless waste. Um,
Yep.
this offense is in tatters. He should be outside the top 5 easily. And I think you can argue he should be below Dalton Schultz too at 7.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Andrews probably has too many sweets during Christmas, so I don't trust his diabetes this week. That is verbatim from Zach. Um, Not. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. We talked about George Kittle. He's been a stud. I think he continues to be a stud, even if Brandon Ayuk catches some. I mean, George Kittle's putting up numbers right now, what people have been waiting for it feels like 2 years. Evan Ingram is very interesting one too because he's gotten very involved very quickly in Jacksonville's offense. I don't think this is Evan Ingram of the Giants anymore. Like this guy's relied on in an offense, and I don't see. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is having success throwing to him. I don't see why that goes away, especially if Houston's all can lock up receivers. Bingo, Evan Ingram's money this week. I like him a lot. In terms of players X higher on, David Njoku 2 higher at 10 at Washington. Cole Kmet 2 higher at Detroit. Gerald Everett 2 higher versus the Rams. Tyler Conklin 2 higher against Seattle. Jordan Atkins 3 higher against Jacksonville. Any of those players spark any interest in you? Otherwise, I can go to players you lower on as well.
For me, Cole Kmet a little bit. Obviously, as with any tight ends, his production is very high, very low. It's really hard. I mean, there's going to be a guy that's ranked in the 30th that probably is a top 10 week this week. That's just how tight ends have been.
Yep.
But I look at Kmet and his targets in the last 7 games, and 5 of them he's got 6 or more. Granted, he doesn't usually get a lot of yardage. But against Detroit, I think Justin Fields can start to get that ball moving.
Yep.
I think if he's able to break that touchdown streak, he's automatically probably top 5.
Yep.
So he's a guy that if you're in the 10s to 20s looking for a guy, I really like him this week.
I think that Chicago can run the ball too against Detroit, and I mean that's only going to set up play action. Where I mean, Cole Kmet has helped Justin Fields a lot in that capacity. So yes, I'm with you on Cole Kmet. Players that Zach is lower on, 2 lower on Mark Andrews versus Pittsburgh, 5 lower on Darren Waller versus San Francisco. I assume both of us agree with that. Just kind of falling in line with San Francisco's a very good team, and you don't really trust Jared Stidham to get Darren Waller the ball much, especially with guys like Devontae Adams there, and Hunter Renfrow, who scored recently. Shout out to Hunter Renfrow. 1 lower on Greg Dulcich, 2 lower on Jawan Johnson, 1 lower on Daniel Bellinger, 2 lower on Cade Otton. Trevor, I assume none of those names ring any bells to you. If they do, go ahead. If not, is there any other tight ends you want to talk about?
Cade Otton, I think he's one. If you don't have him, I mean, we've talked about a lot. If you don't have him in Dynasty, I think he's definitely worth a stash and pickup. I think if you picked him up as a free agent, I think I'm not for this plan. But if you have keepers that you like outside or keepers that you hate, I think if he's worth the last pick in the draft, Cade Otton as a tight end next year might be a shout.
Yep.
I like what he does. I like how he looks when I can't think the starter's name right now, but when he's not in.
Right.
But we'll see. Obviously, it's not this year, but I like what I've seen from him as a rookie, so that says more than I can say for a lot of these guys.
I agree. I agree with it all. Cade Otton probably should be involved a little bit more in Tampa Bay's offense, considering they don't score any points. But on that note, Trevor, is there any other players that you want to talk about? Anything you want to bring up in both fantasy football before we hop into prize picks here?
Not really. I mean, I just again kind of say don't do 2-week playoffs and don't do week 18 playoffs.
Yep.
Uh, like there are so many times, like obviously Kareem Hunt's situation a couple years back, Todd Gurley when he was going nuclear, and then week 18 they sat him. Um, your champion shouldn't be who can outlast the other in week 18 after actually looking good. So please get rid of the week 18 final if you have. And if you're not fine with that, if you like how many playoff teams there are, kick out some people from your league because week 18 playoffs make nobody happy.
Yep. Nobody too much to think about, right? Everyone wants to be done thinking at that point in the season. Cool. Let's hop into picks. Do you have a pick ready? Because I mean I do. Zach, if you're still in the chat, drop a pick before we head out and you weasel your way out of this pick here.
I absolutely do. I could not actually believe that the line was the exact same as last week. Justin Jefferson, again, his line is at 92.5 receiving yards. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how that hasn't gone up in the slightest against the Packers. Like I said, Joe Barry will not change. Even if he does, it'll be at halftime when he already probably has 70 to 80. And I would have gotten Amon-Ra last week if the Lions didn't stop throwing the ball after the first quarter. So I think wide receivers is where I got to keep going.
Yeah, I think you're very safe with Justin Jefferson. Like his line should be like 150.5 at this point. Over under in that. I'm gonna take a fun one. I don't think we've ever done a defensive one before. I'm gonna do Micah Parsons, 4.5 tackles plus assisted tackles. That feels really easy to me, right? Yeah. And Zach is taking Tyler Algier over 60.5 yards rushing. Do we have a promo code for this?
I think it's Flurry. I think it's just Flurry.
Well, anyone listening, you can take those 3 picks, put it into a parlay. Prize picks is very fun to do. You can do it in non-betting states, just picking over-unders, player props all over the place. They have more than just football. Right now, they have NBA, college football. They have NBA second half, college football second half, NHL, college basketball, tennis. Promo code Flurry at Prize Pick, you get a 100% deposit match. Thank you, Zach. Put those picks together, and it incrementally goes up your money up to 5 picks, get up to 20 times your money. Link is in the description of this video. Randy, I'm happy you're here. I thought we missed you. Trevor, we can go out on this. Do you have a top favorite fried food? I think mine's pretty easy.
Yes. French fries, but that's too general because not all French fries are made the same.
Right.
I believe it's called Devil's French fries or Devil's French fries or something like that, where they like fry them twice, and so it has a super like thick coating. It's so good. All the mom and pop restaurants have it, at least down here. And I mean, can you really go wrong with French fries? Like, I feel like at any time of day, hot French fries usually do the job.
Yep. Yeah. I You know, I'm a French fry guy, waffle fry, but my number one cheese curds, right? Cheese curds, and I'm a big calamari guy too. I love fried squid
Now, are you a big breading guy or a no breading guy?
on cheese curds.
Yeah.
Um, I think I like no breading more or limited breading. I like the cheese. To me, the cheese is the best part of a cheese curd, not the fried portion of it.
I can go both ways. I'd lean towards like heavy batter. Like this isn't a popular take, but Culver's amount is a
Okay.
lot,
Yeah.
admittedly. But hey, what you
What
gonna do? At least they're bigger.
What do you eat your cheese curds with? What sauce, or do you not use sauce?
Barbecue sauce usually,
Interesting. I usually
or
don't use.
Thousand Island actually. Change it to that.
Okay, and I was going to bring up blue
Incredible.
cheese, so that kind of not the same, but kind of falls in line with Thousand Island. Cheese curds are just great in general. You can have them anything you can have anytime.
Also, I've heard that this is weird. Is it weird to eat cheese curds with ketchup?
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's weird. I don't like ketchup though.
Because I used to do it, and then when somebody pointed out that you're basically eating cheese and ketchup, then I had to stop because I couldn't get over that mental hurdle. But yeah, yeah.
That's all right. I used to put yellow mustard on my cheese pizza, so that kind of falls in line with that.
I will say it's better than ranch. I'll
Yep.
take that over ranch.
100% agree. I think that's good note to leave out on. Midwesterners love ranch. Um, Everyone listening, stick with us. We'll be back in about 10 or so minutes. Back with Lombardi Sweep talking Packers and how they can make the playoffs, if they can make the playoffs, and what to expect against the Minnesota Vikings. On that note, peace, and hopefully we got Zach back next week if we still got some Week 18 championships going. Peace.